Hi, my name is Chris Jersky. We're really approaching unprecedented times, and I started to realize that a lot of businesses are going to be challenged in the next couple of weeks, especially with school closures and things like that, and people generally scared to visit offices. And it dawned on me that I actually have a lot of experience to be able to share out there and hopefully help people navigate the next couple weeks, especially with trying to work via remote. I've started my business Vital Help Desk back in 2003 and have kind of been working both from home as well as abroad during those times, and found a unique combination of technology as well as some communication skills that I've learned over the years that hopefully I could pass on to you and see if they'll help you. Who's this presentation for? If you're a small business owner that has a general office where your employees are coming to gather, centralized phone systems and things like that. And the other thing, as well as people usually leave their computers at your office and working, then this presentation is for you. If you have already what's called voice over IP systems, as well as people working with laptops, you might be able to get a little bit from this presentation, but most of this is generally suited for people that have like a general work office that they're essentially going to have to either figure out a way of allowing employees to work remotely, or be able to deal with, most importantly, the dissemination of phone calls out to those people, because they're not going to be sitting at their desks. So the first thing I wanted to talk about specifically is the phone systems. There's a couple that I've been dealing with for a long time that are really reliable, as well as give you all of the features that you would be used to working with home phone or office phones, I should say. 8x8 has really been a leader in this area. 8x8 is what's called an internet voice over IP phone, but they also offer desktop phones. So their desktop phones take the place of the traditional, if you remember the old telephone systems that we had from the phone companies, as well as you might have voice over IP systems from like Comcast or some kind of a third-party provider in your area. However, they don't have a lot of the business type features that for example, a soft phone. A soft phone is for the ability for you to put an app on your computer or your cell phone. This gives you the ability to carry your extension or carry your phone outside of that office. So for example, you could give this phone app to your employees, and they would be able to both send and receive calls from their normal cell phone while they're at home. That's one of the biggest advantages of these systems, as well as you could quickly reroute phone calls if someone's going to be out for the day, appoint a new receptionist, things like that. So these phones are a lot more flexible than having the typically wired or not like flexible, let's call them inflexible type phone systems that you might have at your business office. Another thing is a lot of these new systems include video conferencing now. So you could either do video conferencing from your computer or your cell phone. And the nice thing about 8x8 is they are fully HIPAA compliant. So if you're a medical office or worried about privacy concerns, they are one of the only voice over IP carriers that have that distinction. Another one that's a slightly less expensive option, although 8x8 is very reasonable. It's usually about somewhere between $20 to $29 a month for extension. But Dialpad is slightly less expensive at $20 a month. But it's the thing about Dialpad that it's simple to get installed and implemented. You could easily forward your numbers over to the either 8x8 or Dialpad systems. You'd be up and running probably within a couple hours, because Dialpad is a much more simpler. It doesn't have as many features as far as the enterprise level. But if you're a small business with, say, 3 to 5 employees, Dialpad might be the perfect fit for you. Its soft phone feature is perfect. You don't have to have a hard phone set up, and that's why it's so fast and easy to get started. All you have to do is basically purchase it, and you're up and running and installed with the capability of actually making and receiving calls within an hour or so. And the other thing is Dialpad also does include video conferencing with Uber Conference, that it's able to have both video and phone conferencing that you could easily use to schedule appointments with your clients and such. Internet phones are going to be a big deal because if you have a hardwired phone, it's going to be very difficult for you to move around. Like in the case of like a receptionist phone, some of those receptionist phones are hardwired to that particular desk, and unless you're sitting at that desk, you won't be able to reroute calls or anything like that, or deal with any incoming calls. Either of these solutions, 8x8 or Dialpad, have a main dial-in number and have the capability of basically rerouting just through a web browser. So you could literally appoint a new receptionist or a point person, as well as they both have what's called auto attendant, which is a computer that answers the phone and like you probably heard before, touch 1 to dial this department, touch 2 to dial this department. Both very easy to install and very easy to get set up. But I will say that like these services are absolutely critical to have on hand. You won't be able to leave your wired offices unless you're going to be forwarding those numbers to, say, a cell phone, but then you're going to constantly have to be either in the office or going back and basically rerouting the phone, because typically the forwarding only works if you're actually calling from the wired phone itself and setting up a new forwarding number. So just keep those things in mind. Very important to have the voice over IP internet-based phone systems going into this. The next one is very important to remember: unattended remote desktop. Unattended means that you do not have to have anybody at the desk to use it. Some remote desktop softwares work both in like kind of a screen sharing mode or the ability to basically log in and remotely control the computer. However, you have to grant the computer or grant that person permission first. So a lot of times those remote softwares will only be useful if someone's actually physically sitting in front of the computer. That's why if you see something like a support type software or something like that, they'll be asking for permission before you can do that. If your employees are trying to use their computer at home, they really need an unattended remote desktop software so they can literally log in without any permission, then basically use the computer or even shut down the computer or reboot the computer remotely. And so it's literally as if they just were sitting in their office, but they'll be able to use a laptop or a personal home computer to remote control their computer at work. This is super important, especially you don't want to go through the headache of trying to get files shared to personal computers or allow those personal computers on your network. We highly recommend people use remote-based softwares so they can simply just give people a small piece of software that allows them to literally control the computer at work. Those computers are already set up, they already have their software, they already have their email configured. Using the remote desktop software allows them to quickly connect, use their computer as if they were sitting by their desk, and then disconnect after they're done. No need to set up anything except for a small piece of software that allows them to connect. One of the ones that we've been using here recently, Zoho Assist, works wonderful. It's easy to use. It's free up to 5 computers. So if you're a small office, this is very easy for you to get set up. Probably within 30 minutes, you can have it both installed, set up, and ready to go. However, I will put a little asterisk that I have noticed that they've been dealing with tremendous load over the last few days. Zoho is more of a remote type assistant for IT people, so they might have a little bit of more people trying to use their services over the next couple days, and that's why I want to offer up TeamViewer as a secondary. TeamViewer is a long established enterprise grade remote software. They've been used by some of the biggest companies out there. They're a little bit more complicated, but their services, because they handle so much from the standpoint of huge enterprise type computer or enterprise type systems like an IBM or Coca-Cola or some like big companies out there, they're going to be able to deal with the load over the next couple weeks. Again, you're looking for unattended remote desktop software, and this is by far the easiest way to grant access for your employees to remotely connect to their computers. We highly recommend going this route instead of having to try to send all of the connections to their personal computers at home, and it might even be a security risk if you're passing documents or things like that back and forth between their home networks. Another one is employee collaboration. A big thing when you're working remote. My teams have been dispersed across the world, and it's crucial because when you're sitting in an office, there's so much benefit to you being able to walk over to somebody and talk to somebody that email will just literally choke if you're going to rely on email to try and take the place of that face-to-face or being able to call and ask a quick question, it's going to be crazy. So Microsoft Teams comes with Office 365. Most people haven't used it, but it's already installed on your computer, or it can be installed very, very quickly by just basically logging onto it for the first time. Microsoft Teams is built on a software that resembles Slack, which it allows you to have quick chats with employees and things like that. The thing that's beneficial about Microsoft Teams itself is if you are on an Office 365 setup, then everybody at your organization is already basically pre-configured to work with it. So as soon as you basically log onto it, everybody else that logs onto it will be available. There's nothing to share links with one another and say, here's my ID and so on and so forth. So Microsoft Teams by far is probably going to be the quickest way you can set up with what I'm calling employee collaboration, because this will only be within your office and everybody that has Office 365. We sell Google Apps as well as Google Suite, and there is another Google Chat, that works mostly like this, but it doesn't have as many features, I would say. But if you need help with that, just let us know. We can quickly guide you in with some emails or some more details on getting those set up. A long favorite of mine has been Skype. Skype by far is probably the oldest one out there for collaboration. And the biggest thing about Skype is that you still have to share your ID after you get set up. So if you don't have a Skype account, after you create it, you're going to have to send somebody a link telling them what your ID is. But by far, Skype is free, simple, super simple to use. We've been using it to chat and do business with international folks for years. But the nice thing about Skype is it has full voice, video, and screen share built right in. The only caveat to it is it's slightly a little bit more difficult to get set up, because you will have to share your ID or get the ID of the person that you want to connect with first before you can basically start using it with that person. Customer collaboration is slightly different than employee collaboration. We're putting them in a different category. Again, with employee collaboration, it's probably informal. You're going to be basically connecting with them, sending short little messages back and forth with them. Whereas with customer collaboration, say for example, some of my accounting friends, they want to, we're going into tax season, they want to share documents with those people or have a conversation about some of the things on their taxes. You would be able to easily do that with these two softwares here. Google Hangouts comes free with Gmail as well as Google Suite. You're able to send somebody a link that when they click on that link, they immediately come into your come into what they're calling the Google Hangout. You are able then to do a video conference with them, a voice conversation with them if you dial into the phone, or hook it up to your computer and speak through a microphone like I'm doing right now. There's so much when it comes to the communication side that I would not recommend you just relying on email. Having the ability to talk to somebody over the phone, or them seeing you in a video, body language and things like that. There's so much more value in using that as far as the bandwidth of your communications. So always we recommend using these video chats as well as voice chats. But for the difference between a customer collaboration and an employee collaboration is that it's more formal. And the other thing is you don't know what software your customers might or might not have. So the Google Hangouts is very nice because you just send them a link and really they just have to log in with a browser and they're connected to you and they don't have to have any special software installed. However, if you are going to have bigger meetings where you have to do formal presentations to say 5 or more people, then I highly recommend the next choice is Zoom video conference. They've really been the dominant force in video conferencing and things like that. Again, very simple to use. You just send them a link and there is a small piece of software to install, but it's very small. It sets up in a couple seconds. And with that, I've seen people have 20 to 30 video people online at any time, and there's no hang-ups, and they're all able to talk. One of the nicest features about Zoom is that it actually listens to the microphone, and it will switch the cameras to the person that happens to be talking at that moment. So very, very seamless, very easy to do large group video conferencing, that it's not confusing. but it's very easy to use, and I highly recommend it if you're going to be doing customer collaboration. And on that route too, when you're talking to your employees or your customers and you don't have the benefit of being able to be face to face, I highly recommend stuff like we're using right now. As you can see, I'm on camera. I'm using a program called Camtasia, but it's also a smaller brother's version is Snagit. They're made by the same company, TechSmith. They offer amazing, simple tools to basically do screencasts. A small story I'll share with you is that when I first started my business, I did a lot of programming design, systems design, and architecture, and I would probably spend about 6 or 7 hours a day writing emails to my team, and then only find that my team couldn't understand. The emails were super long. It was just daunting to try and communicate without the benefit of being face to face and having a whiteboard, let's just say, for example. With Snagit, you're able to do screencasts within a second. You can simply just turn on your monitor, turn on a PowerPoint like this, or just point to a web page, moving your mouse around on the page too, like I'm doing right now, and you can focus in and point to things. Also basically allow you to, like say for example, you pulled up a spreadsheet and you did a presentation with a spreadsheet, you could circle that and point to it using your mouse. Highly recommend using these screencasting tools because they just increase the bandwidth of your communications to a level that you just can't have with just the typed email. Droplr is another one I highly recommend. Droplr though is more of a screen sharing or file sharing tool that it has this beautiful feature that it does an automatically deletion. So when you use it, you essentially, if you're recording, say, a screencast or something like that, it automatically uploads it and then copies over a link to your clipboard so you can just paste it in your email right away. Very, very simple to use, and the nice feature of it constantly cleaning itself out with these automatic deletions. I highly recommend using that as well. So again, these are unprecedented times and they call for unprecedented action. Most of all, I hope that you're keeping your families and employees safe. And I really just was passing this information on, hopefully to help people, because I know that there's going to be a lot of people home with children, with daycares being shut down and things like that. I feel for people out there that are going to have to deal with this situation, especially if they can't work, and just the reality is business has to move forward, both from our paycheck standpoint as well as our businesses in general. So I want to make sure that people can have this information and hopefully work through here. If you need some help, I'm here. If you want to give me a call or shoot me an email. Again, my name is Chris Jersky with Vital Help Desk. I hope everybody stays safe and God bless. I'll talk to you very soon.